Hey, how's it going? It's been a while, huh? It's just you and me. I know. Crazy, isn't it? Well, just thought we'd shift things up a little while. It's been a while since Westworld's been a while, so I figured it'd be a while since we just had a little one-on-one time. So I'm gonna do things a little different tonight. Um, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Darren Jakes, D to my friends, and I don't know, I've always had an interest in trying to figure out what makes something good or what makes something bad, film and television wise. I'm a big film and television nut. Just simple things like why does a high grade movie look the way that it does? And why is that different from, say, your standard television soap opera? I mean, yeah, you learn later on that that's video versus film, and some things have high amounts of color correction and adjusting in there, and some of the stuff is sent pretty much from the film canister straight to editing and right onto the screen with very little extra stuff. So this has been sort of a journey for me, which is one of the reasons I started doing this channel, this discussion. Um, Now, most of the stuff I tend to cover tends to be very pulp culture. A lot of Star Wars, a lot of superheroes, a lot of zombie type of stuff. But the real meat and potatoes of what I like to do here, the real stuff that interests me is the more, I don't know, philosophical type of ideas. The questions of what is reality? What is identity? What makes this a real motivation and that a false motivation? Those types of bigger questions, and sort of like as William deals with, you might say, at the end of last season. If you can't tell the difference of why you're doing things, does it matter? So those are kind of the really bigger questions that I like to ask, which of course, obviously, leads us into Westworld, a show that really has done a magnificent job of dealing with questions of identity, reality. What is the difference between where does consciousness come from? Can it be artificially induced? Is it a sequence of experiences that we all build upon? Or is it something internal? And I think these questions is something that Westworld has done really, really well. So that's what we're doing for the next few episodes. And tonight, we're jumping into Westworld, Season 4, Episode 1, The Auguries. Oh, right, this is live. I don't have those transition stuff. Man, this is going to take a while to get used to. And of course, I don't have discussions with people, so I can't even throw anything off. It's a very weird situation, new for me. Anyway, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us. Everyone joining us live, everyone joining us in the archives later on. Appreciate you doing. Obviously, we're going to have plenty of spoilers for Westworld, both this episode and previous season, so this will be your one warning. Also, for returning guests, yeah, this is my face. I grew a beard for the Obi-Wan discussions and decided I was going to play with a couple of different looks and things. I had this giant hairy palette to work with, and I made some bad choices. I'm just going to say it that way. It was not going the way I wanted to, so I figured we'd just go fresh slate. So, I don't know, kind of appropriate, I think, for this particular discussion, because we are kind of going into a new world with this season. It's one thing that the show has really done kind of from season to season, is be able to tell kind of really different stories, different versions, different worlds going on. So what we have kicking off here, of course, is 7 years later. This is after season 3. The war is over. We won, humanity won, or Caleb and Maeve won more specifically. So yeah, the world has been freed from the influence of Rehoboam. There's no more strategy for the future. But not a lot has changed, really. The world looks a lot the way that it is. What does the Caleb's friend say is insight didn't tell you who you were, or didn't make you who you were. It just told you who you already were. So kind of interesting that this far down the line, after the riots, after the revolution, Dolores's big revolution to free mankind, things look a lot the way that they are. I mean, few little differences. Let's see, we've got Caleb, like I said, back at construction. Maeve's hiding out, not a whole lot of changes. But of course, what? That would be a boring story. So as usual, things kind of kick off underneath here. The opening sequence dealing with William's takeover of the Hoover Dam, I thought was just beautiful. I mean, one, it's a great thing. We're going right into the danger. We know that this is kind of a big thing. The dam, I love. I mean, that's a beautiful use of location, I think, because the Hoover Dam will last thousands of years. It's basically a man-made concrete stone mountain, effectively. If you keep the electronics going right, this thing will continue to pump out power until those turbines die. And the first thing we hear from Hugo, the new runners of the dam, is that they just put in new turbines, last for 100 years without maintenance. Now, why would you want that? I mean, it's nice and easy, but what we've got here, of course, is data storage. And again, this is a brilliant use of something that will basically continue to generate power as long as the Colorado River is running. And they're doing it for data storage. What did they say? A permanent data storage, which is perfect if you have, like, nefarious data, dark information you don't want anyone to know about. You want to be able to hide it out. Obviously, this particular group, the cartel, nefarious, unlawful, perfect kind of, again, dark web stuff going on here, where you can hide out this type of data. Stinger B Company, what's up? Nice to see you in the chat. It's weird when I can't toss things off like this. It's been a fun change here. But the idea of using this as a permanent data storage site where the power will not ever go off, where you effectively have your information etched in stone, is a brilliant idea. And a reason why, I mean, there's already a reason why William would want this, because of course it ain't William, it's William Bout. Because William was killed, his neck sliced at the end of last season. So this is the host of William, which you can always tell because he still has fingers on his right hand. It's a nice little visual check. And so obviously he is still working with Charlotte. So what is their want for this? Well, he says it straight out. Data was taken from me, stored here. I can't get to it, so I need to protect it. Therefore, I will take all of it. And that data is going to be the Sublime. This is effectively the digital afterlife, where all of the hosts that were able to escape at the end of season 2 have gone, including Maeve's daughter. This is exactly what Delores was after before. Well, again, we'll get into that. This is definitely what they want, but they can't get to it because Delores locked the information away in Bernard's head, who is currently, as far as we know, still in the Sublime or doing something. We will probably find him next episode. So that's what they want. They want to hold on to the Sublime so that they can eventually access it if they need to, or at the very least protect it, because that is their people, the hosts. So it's just, again, it's a great bit of idea of technology of a permanent storage place for a group like this. And not the only thing that they've been doing. They did talk about picking up that William's been buying up property in the old city and surrounding areas. Closest city to Hoover Dam, 40 miles away, is Las Vegas. So I am wondering if this is all going to be happening in Las Vegas. We'll get to see if that's where the tower is. Anyway, we'll further on with that discussion. So Let's see. We got a little chat going on in here. Fangirling and loving it. Hi, the Hoover Dam shots were awesome. Love the data storage concept. Yeah, exactly. Just a brilliant idea to do with this. Rena, yeah, as long as the Colorado River runs, it will continue to have power. So, want to be sure I miss all the little notes that I have. Because again, I can't throw this off to somebody else to start talking and filling in. Rob, I hope you're doing well. I miss you, man. We're going to bring you back. We'll bring everyone back in the coming weeks. Don't worry about that. So anyway, he's got to get this stuff. And what? I mean, why negotiate with untrustworthy humans? I mean, the cartel, they're going to have trouble with it. So maybe you can find a different way to do it. And now we've got our nice nefarious bit, because William and Charlotte have been running Delos for the past 8 years. They've been obviously running it all legitimately, looking things up, but they're doing dark stuff in the background, a little bit of design work, a little bit of stretching out their power, including redesigning some of the flies of the park. And this is, to me, kind of a hilarious little bit, because of course the first episode opens up and we have that long discussion with Delores says, I wouldn't even hurt a fly, which is as she starts to become conscious and move through. That's the first thing that she does, is kill the fly. So we have that kind of interesting set there. And now we have the host using the flies to basically program people, which I love. I mean, the hosts are used to running narratives. So if you can just give people narratives, then they'll do what you want. And what was William's question last year? If you don't, is it free will, or is it because you are meant to do that? And if you can't tell the difference, does it matter? The idea that this is going to be something we really get to sort of play with this season is really exciting. And the fact that you're using flies to basically, I don't know if they're like inserting nanobots into the system, or they're actually going into the bodies and physically attaching to systems and releasing chemicals and doing all of the things that you would need to do in order to get someone to go. But by Hugo's action, certainly the next day, to go and kill everybody else, sign the paperwork and hand it off to William, just like he said he was going to do. You can buy it from me today. I can sell it to you today, or I can take it from you tomorrow. He's a man of his word. I think it's just lovely, and also very creepy. And flies, who pays attention to flies? Flies are everywhere. It's the perfect delivery system, and you just use them en masse, and you get to gross people out as well. I mean, it's like a double win, really, for sci-fi. So we're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more than that, and I'm really going to be curious, because even when Hugo first slapped one of the flies, then he started looking at his hand like, wait, it's doing something different. So that's why I'm thinking there might be some sort of nanobot delivery system or something like that. But again, that's speculation. We're going to be finding out a lot more of that stuff as things go on. So yeah, Charlotte, William, buying property, buying the old city. Why would you want the old city? Well, if you want a place for your kind to be free, if you want your own place, well, you get an old city, you got an infinite power source, you lock that up. That sounds like a pretty effective place. I'm not sure how the rest of the U.S. is sort of patterned out, so we would have to see that. I mean, you can't really build like a Westworld in the middle of the U.S., but maybe you can. I mean, if you just take over the city, who knows? All right, so let's move on. Where did we get to? All right, so Caleb. We'll jump to Maeve in a minute, but let's start off with Caleb here. He was supposed to lead humanity, man. He was supposed to lead us into the future. But it didn't really work out that way, much as life actually does. And things haven't changed a whole lot necessarily for him. He's still working in construction, but he does have a family. He's got a wife. He's got a kid. It's awesome. I think he's trying to live his life. We get that brief kind of flashback with Maeve looking that there was some kind of further mission. Looks like running to an island, a second Rehoboam or something like that. Maybe just taking out periphery data areas where Caleb got injured. Hopefully didn't die. And this is like some Caleb bot. But I'm going to assume we're going to get into false realities and possibly in a minute here. But let's focus on what we can guess to be the real world. Caleb being injured, did that end the thing? Was that Rena Dietrich says season 3 didn't happen? Well, no, it did. It had to set up for all of this, whether you agree with everything or not. But I understand. Wait, now I lost my train of thought. Caleb, right. So after the injury, I don't know, maybe he didn't want to leave. Maybe that was enough. Maybe his idea on recovery was like, look, humanity is to go on. I just want a life. And maybe that's a recurring theme that we have here is just want to live my life. Want to have a family, want to have a kid, want to grow old, want to watch them grow up and do all the regular normal things. But you can't let go of that type of battles. The PTSD sticks around. You can see that's obviously transferring to his kid, as his wife starts to mention, is now she's sleeping with a gun under her pillow. I mean, she's asking him, I'm afraid someone's going to be here. It's my bear who's scared. Great advice, though. You do want to light up the perimeter and keep it dark where you are. That way you see somebody out and they don't see you. It's smart. Is that the best discussion with a 7-year-old? Well, I don't know, because considering the danger that they're actually getting into, I think the little girl's going to need to learn to shoot really well. Maeve, on the other hand, not having a family. Maeve is living off in the boondocks by herself in isolation. But when you can control electronics, it's very hard to disappear, ultimately. Certainly when you can have emotional reactions and dreams of your child. I mean, that's pretty much all that Maeve can have right now. She's not interacting with anyone. She's pretty much just living in her memories. And ultimately, that's going to get you. And that does seem to be the kind of instigator with pulling them in, is her having that super powerful dream, overloading the system, and that creating enough of a signal for Charlotte and William to go ahead and send somebody after her. My big question on that, of course, is why? Why go after Maeve? I mean, she would be, honestly, she's the biggest threat that they have. So if you can eventually locate her and wipe her out, then yeah, that's going to be important. If you think that she has data, you can try and capture her. So, I mean, I kind of get that. The question I did have was, why go after Caleb? Fangirling and loving it. Yeah, flashback was intriguing because it looked like a death scene for Caleb, but hopefully not a red herring. That's where... Again, I always like to ask these kind of bigger questions, and I'm curious, why go after Caleb? To be honest, I don't even know if Caleb and William ever met. I'd have to look back the interaction. I mean, I literally just watched season 3, but I don't really remember them having all that much of a threat, or even really kind of knowing. It's basically just this human that led the revolution, which kind of worked in Charlotte Williams' favor. But why go after him? Why try to... I mean, and it's not information because they tried to shoot him. So it's definitely trying to kill. And again, unless we're just seeing some sort of kind of general threat, Maeve, Caleb, anything of that group to try and take out. But this is giving me kind of extra stuff because, yeah, exactly, fangirling. Because it seemed like Caleb died in that, and we're having them going after. We always have to question motivations. We have to ask what is real, because we know that that's exactly what they're going to be playing with here. And that brings us to Christine. just a regular girl living in the city, a writer trying to live her life. She's got dreams, she's got hopes, bit of a romantic, and the face of Delores. So what is going on with Delores? Or what is going on with Christine? Okay, she thinks she's a regular human. From all indications, that is her belief system. And as a character, she seems to embody a lot of the ideas of Delores, of those hopes, those dreams, that little bit of a romantic. Just trying to live a very happy ending. But we're starting to see that it appears that the story she's writing is starting to leak over into the real world, which again gives us those wonderful questions about identity. I mean, again, what's real? What is imaginary? What's your choice? What's being directed for you? And if you could find the author of your story, can you change it? It's certainly what Peter tries to do. We do get a few hints about what's going on. The tower, discussed by the homeless man that was on the street. It does pop up a couple of times. Peter even says it later on when he runs into Delores. I thought it was the tower. And we haven't seen anything that seems to a tower. So that may be something that we'll start to learn in next episode. And again, if we've got some Vegas stuff going on, there's plenty of towers in Vegas that could be. Even new ones. There's always new Vegas things being built. Christine's boss ties into Peter when she pulls her away and says, okay, your stories are boring. Can you give me some of the meatier stuff? Like the one you wrote a couple of months ago. Poor schmuck loses everything, goes into drink. Then he stalks a girl. And then what has it happened? Yeah, they all die. Yeah, more of that stuff. People love that stuff. He dies. Poor Peter. Kind of unfortunate. But that certainly ties into, is that Peter's story, and how is that happening? Or is the company being used as a test product to program the little drones from the flies? Because this sounds like one of those fly things going in, being tested on people. Can we control them? Can we make them do their thing? All of that type of stuff. Possible. But just before that homeless man mentions the tower for the first time, when Christine's just leaving her place, she passes these group of, I don't know, looks like young business guys, very happy, talking. Wow, I can't believe this is the first time you've been here. Oh my God, this place is amazing. Oh, I've got to show you this one thing. Is Christine living in a real city? Is it digital? Remember when Sarek took Maeve originally last season, first it was a kind of living, breathing digital Westworld that she was put in, or War World at the time. But she was able, of course, to overload the systems and find the glitches and do all of this. This is years later. This is bigger type of stuff. This might even be the data hub that we saw William buying, because again, time, who knows if we're seeing past and future at any point. Identity, what's real, when is anything happening? These are all up in the air. Yeah, Stinger B, that looked like a past scene of Caleb rather than a future scene. Yeah, we've got all sorts of different types of stuff going on. Think of Delores scenes are in the past. The real human Delores could be. But I think we have a lot of these questions. How are the stories that she is writing influencing people's lives? If she is writing secondary background characters that the principals interact with, and those people are the people in the city, and they realize that they are background characters, that would possibly explain what they do. So I know we're just throwing up all of these questions. It's the first episode. This is where all the fun speculation gets to come in, folks. Let's see. Oh, we also get the maze popping up on the fire escape. When the pot fell over, underneath it was a pattern of the maze, which is, of course, one of the early things that helped with Delores and working out her, realizing her identity and all of that stuff. Same thing that William was after, but mistakenly in the first season. So a lot of these things that are questioning, is she real? Is she not? And I think that is it. Is Christine Delores? Seems like it, acts like it. How is she there? Now we know Delores Prime. We'll call it Delores Prime because it's the easiest one. It's the one that Rachel Evan Ward played throughout last season. Died at Rehoboam. She sacrificed herself, and Rehoboam wiped her memory, and that allowed them to get the access codes in so that Caleb could shut it down and begin the whole revolution. So she sacrificed herself for the revolution. That Delores is gone. But there were several Doloreses. Let's count those down, shall we? Okay, Delores number 1 is Hale, of course. Now the Dark Delores. Not willing to save people. She does not find the beauty in things. She's here to burn it all down. William Bott there to help her. William could be a version of Delores, but I really think that that's the work of actually getting the transition of human personalities into bots. I think that's the top level of what we hit for last season. So we got Hale. We had Connolly, who was what's his name, security guy, and he got blown up. They recovered him, and then Hale took a hold of his pearl when she was leaving Delos before her family blew up last season. Sato Masashi was the other version of Delores, and he was last seen with Henario and Clementine after he got beheaded and dragged off. They were working for Maeve, or they were Maeve's allies, but possibly working with Serac. So what happened to that pearl? That's a good question that we can kind of throw out here. The only other one was Lawrence. Remember, who popped up. He'd infiltrated the police department and gave the case to Bernard. Which sent him off to go into the Sublime, which is where he was sitting in that hotel room for, I'm guessing, the 8 years or so that we have in between. Again, probably next week we'll find out what's going on with Bernard. I hope so. So those are our copies of Delores. How did this Delores, Christine, as we'll call her, come about? Again, is she a program in there? Is she the captured version of, say, Sato Masashi's one? Is she Lawrence reprogrammed? You know what I like to think? I mean, I'm a bit of a romantic. I'll admit that. As I'd like to think that Delores Prime, the one who died at Rehoboam, wasn't the actual Delores Prime, that she was a copy. They said something when they hooked her up to start to kind of hunt down for the data that they were finding, was that there was a lot of data missing. There wasn't as much there as there should be. Now, if they were expecting to find all of the information from the Sublime and stuff that wasn't meant to be there, what meant to be there was just the location, the codes to get in. But they made a specific comment about her memory being not as large, or there's not as much there as there should be. So I am wondering if Delores at some point was able to copy herself, whether she got another pearl, used somebody else's pearl, or anything like that. And Delores and Christine is effectively the life Delores wanted to live. Removed her identity, put her hopes and dreams in, and sent her off in the world, whether Caleb and Delores Prime were successful or not, to go and live amongst humanity and try and have that life that she wants. I know, it's romantic, but I kind of like it. Especially since Teddy pops up. Oh, Man, I gotta say, I miss Teddy. I miss Teddy so much. I didn't even know how much I missed Teddy until he popped up. I mean, honestly, look, when she got that blind date, I was kind of hoping that was Teddy. I was hoping that he was the one that's going to show up and not the douchebag that ended up saying, wow, you sound depressed. You should take drugs so I can have sex with you. Yeah. Gotta go. Yeah. Go to the bathroom and just leave him there. Don't even go back to the restaurant. But I was really hoping that Teddy was going to be there, that was going to be Teddy. Obviously, why would it be? That doesn't really make any sense. And then when he shows up, I got teary. I got excited. I have to admit it. But how is Teddy there? I think that ties into the Christine Delores question. I mean, again, if I want to follow my romantic bit, that Teddy was also released off into the world so that one day, hopefully, they could meet and then go on and live their lives together. Ultimately, I'm really hoping that's still where we're going to get to go, is that Delores and Teddy get to have their life, just living it, just doing their thing. I would love that. And I'm hoping that Delores in some way has released Teddy into the world, because the only other way that he could be out there is if Charlotte sent him out, because Teddy would otherwise have been in the Westworld data banks. That's where his pearl would have been with all that stuff. And so, and if that's the case, then yeah, we got all sorts of interesting things going on. Her romanticism is going to get caught up with Charlotte's darkness, and then hopefully the real Teddy will come out. But again, these are a lot of big questions, and we don't know what the time period of anybody is. The only ones that we know for sure is pretty much that Maeve, Caleb, and William/Charlotte are all living in one world. Everybody may be in the same world, but we know that they are, because they're all talking about the same length of time that has passed. We know that Maeve survived. So if she's able to run into Caleb, then he has also survived in some levels. Why Charlotte and William are going after them now? Well, even they are asking that question. So, you know, it's universal. We know that they're heading off to deal with some senator in California. What else that's going to be, can't entirely be sure. So yeah, kind of a lot of stuff going on. And again, it's fun because we get to ask those big questions. When are these things happening? That was one of the nice things that season 1 did, and I gotta say, it got me, is telling the story from multiple time periods overlaying, where you could have William in the past and William now, the man in black, doing concurrent storylines and having those overlay, because both of those are dealing in a way with the background of Delores becoming conscious or regaining consciousness, as we later on learned that actually goes. So I expect that we have some twisted realities going on. I am very curious about how this fly reprogramming delivery system goes. If the flies themselves are going in and like connecting in with stuff, because then when they die, the flies can fly back out and look all nasty. Or if they're just deliveries for nanobots, which then go in and take over subsystems and release chemicals or memories or whatever. Because again, if we've all watched The Matrix, we know that reality is simply electrical transmissions in our brains. And if you could take that stuff over and simulate ideas, how would you know the difference between the ones you came up with and the ones that the flies came up with? So yeah, great little stuff. The tower, we've got to find out where that is, what that is, and how it's influencing these people. I think primarily the mission's going to be the mission. One of the big questions is going to be, what is the deal with Christine? Is she in a physical world or is she in a digital world? And is she a locked Delores consciousness? Is she a renewed Delores consciousness? Is she a new Pearl or was being thrown out. Is all of this happening in the past, the early on ideas? Possibly, if she ended up being the writer of Westworld and threw these ideas out, fine. But I think Robert and Arnold were the ones that kind of came up. We really dug into a lot of those histories previous seasons. So I'm not leaning so much in that, but I also can't exclude anything. So yeah, a lot of excited. Anything from the chat? You guys have been throwing some things out here. Let me see if I can go over and see if there's any questions or ideas, things that I did not catch up on. Dun, 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 dun. Forgotten about Pinkman. Oh, I gotta say, I do love the fact that we can reuse hosts as new people in the world just get reprogrammed. Was it a Colonel Brigham from season 1, season 2? It was one of the Confederate generals now being used to hunt down Maeve. I love that. And of course, she can recognize all of them, so that's very cool. Capture her and take her brain apart like she did the general. Yeah, if they're looking for information off of Maeve, you can kill her or capture her. You can still get the information fine. But they don't want information from Caleb because they tried to shoot him. So that looks like just extermination. And hopefully, yeah, just after him and not their family. I'm sure that his buddies should be taking them away for a while. I appreciate his wife commenting that I thought you were paranoid, and now I get it. On the other hand, that she's like, but why are you going? You have to stay. You do have to stay with your family. I get this. But, you know, if you're giving him shit for all those years about being paranoid, then you realize he wasn't paranoid. It's true. You can't really be that mad at him for finding that out. You got to support that, is what I'm saying. Delores scenes in the past. Yeah, Stinger B. I think the Delores scenes from the past, the real human one. Right. Yes, the fun. It is fun speculating. This is really what we could do with the first season. We get to start putting the puzzle pieces together as things go on. So yeah, and a lot of enjoyment on the flies there. So yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers everything. I mean, question wise, I mean, look, is the show good? Yeah, great. Is the acting good? Amazing. I love the fact that there's so many pictures. The way that they shoot everything is all very cinematic. We get some really nice shots. Almost all of the scenes are like paintings. And I think that's always a sign of a good cinematographer. I'm just really excited to be back in the world. I think this is the last season, but this kind of, again, brings things around full circle. The first season was about programming hosts and them realizing life. And now we have, at the very end, we have hosts attempting to program people to figure out their own lives. It's again, it's a full thing around. We had the fly thing going on, like I mentioned, and it's beautiful. That is awesome. So in the next few weeks, we'll, of course, be covering all of the episodes. We'll be doing that this time for Westworld because we don't want to wait too long. So we're not going to be doing our normal Thursday night show. It will be Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock. I will be bringing in guests and such to discuss things as well. So we can get a lot more of different ideas and thoughts and suggestions. But I really just wanted to take today off. It's been a while since I got to do a singular review and really kind of dive deep into all of these things. So thank you all for kind of sticking around and joining. If you want, you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Darren Jakes. That's right there. This is D's Reviews. You can hit like, subscribe, notifications, all of that fun stuff. Otherwise, we will be back here next week and talking some more Westworld. Now we've got the setup, folks. Now we have the setup. So hopefully we can really start to dive into story and start trying to figure out what's real, and what everybody really wants out of everything. Anyway, we'll catch you all next week.